Earth, wind, and fire. They're talking about a fantasy world. I love fantasy. Why? Because we do not live in a fantasy world. We live in the real world. There are real things that can harm you, things that are horrible, things you can't see, things you can't smell, things you can't sense until it's too late. But there are things you can do about it. One of them is education. Let's begin with slide 1. Fantasy. Real world. Slide 1. Hepatitis A in restaurants. How about hepatitis A, B, and C in food service? Hepatitis A is a virus. It can cause an acute infection of your liver. We have a lot of people with harmed livers. It can be caused by many things, by drugs, alcohol use, and certain medical conditions. But the fact is, it's out there. It's a virus. It's usually known as viral hepatitis. It's A, B, and C. Look at those yellow eyes. You see somebody with yellow eyes, they got it. And 9 times out of 10, you ain't going to see it. But a hepatitis will attack your liver, and you can die from it. Next slide. It's highly contagious. People who make your food is the most likely source. If you eat out quite a bit and you have a severe medical condition, or you know somebody, you're taking somebody to a favorite restaurant, why not ask the manager if everybody's had their hepatitis screening? Is that offensive? Is that politically incorrect? No, it's completely appropriate. Food service people, let's face it, they don't have a medical degree. They don't have a law degree. They haven't gone to college. They're there 9 times out of 10 because that's the last job they could get. When you're traveling, particularly internationally, you don't know who sat in that seat. You don't know who's breathing the air, who's coughing. And that aircraft air, which I should have a special segment on, is contaminated full of bacteria, viruses, you name it, and every surface that you touch. That little hand cloth on top of your head, they don't change that every time there's a new passenger that sits in there, by the way. It's highly contagious. It can spread from person to person in many different settings. It's typically only a mild illness, and people who are infected by it rarely realize it. The virus never goes away. Believe it or not, it never goes away, but some people say it does, but it always causes liver damage, sometimes long term. And it usually spreads through food and water. Next slide. What are the symptoms? Let's look at that picture of that young lady. She has a bit of a headache. Oh, I got a cold. Oh, I got the flu. They don't know what they have. Look at that slide on the right. Blood transfusions, sharing a needle. I'm sure all you people that are addicted to narcotics or you got to inject them, think about it. I'm sure you sterilize every needle, right? A mother to baby. If the mother has it, the baby's got it. Body piercings. I see these people with body piercings. They think they're just wonderful. They've only added more access to the universe to contaminate their bodies. Isn't that great? People with tattoos. You could have one tattoo given to you with hepatitis A. Guess what? You get a gift you weren't even thinking about. Unprotected sex. You've already heard that. It's boring. But the fact is, the more you share your bodily fluids, the more you share. And the person, if that's a really big sharer, a really big giver, if they have multiple partners, that's the more you're sharing. The more exposure you have to these viruses and bacteria. Many adults who get hepatitis B with mild symptoms, they figure they'll get better on their own. Believe it or not, they don't. People are not able to clear the virus of their own body. It causes a long-term infection, usually the liver. 90% of all infants who get this virus will carry it for life. And it does cause liver damage or failure, and a lot of times liver cancer. Next slide. Does hepatitis spread? Obviously it spreads. Everything spreads. You'll have it the rest of your life. You see people on the right-hand side with these jewelry pieces all over their bodies, nose, tongues, lips, any other place they want to put them. There's just more exposure. Again, the same sort of deal, tattoos, blood, and these sex people. The bottom line is if you get hepatitis B from sharing a needle, a razor, a toothbrush, you got it, baby. You got more than you signed up for. An infected mother, give it to her children. Also through hugging, sharing of food, and coughing. Next slide. Should you be tested? Hey, you're going to be tested for something, you might as well be tested for this. Here's the challenge. You can't get it from eating utensils shared with somebody with hepatitis. You can't get it from holding hands, kissing someone. You can't get it from being near somebody or a cough or a sneeze. You can't get it from breastfeeding, but you can get it from food and water if it's overly contaminated. The fact is our government has estimated 3.2 million people a year get it. Are you at risk? That's up to you. I just outlined a bunch of potential situations. My solution, get tested and then start taking measures. An early diagnosis could save your liver or your life. Next slide. What's the transmission? It's primarily through restaurants. If you ever look in the newspaper or the internet, Google News, type in hepatitis restaurants, you're going to see fast food joints, you're going to see people that swap needles, even physicians. In many countries, they don't really understand the germ theory or the virus theory. Get a vaccine. If you go to a restaurant and you find out that it had hepatitis A from other workers, you got to go get a vaccine immediately, within 2 weeks. That's not an option. That's me telling you, get smart, get that sort of a virus vaccine immediately. Next slide. There are food products that have hepatitis. We had some, what are those, pomegranate seeds from Turkey that were put into these antioxidant blends to make these smoothies. They were loaded from Turkey full of hepatitis, believe it or not. Their food safety is horrible down there. That's another reason we should have food labeling. We'll know where in the heck this place these products came from. Costco sold that product. They're one of my clients. They're very fastidious. Things get through the mix. Products that are not tested prior to the release to the public is 90% of most food. Most of the 10% producers, they're my clients. But the rest of them, they just want to make money. Believe it or not, they're crass that way. Next slide. Here are my suggestions to you in the time that I have left. Hepatitis A outbreaks, that's what they call them in restaurants, are caused or tracked back to a worker or multiple workers. If you go to a restaurant where everybody has body piercings, tattoos, that's your choice. It's wonderful. I'm sure you enjoy it. Everybody's hugging each other. But you have the likelihood of obtaining this disease, this virus. The food workers, they're not PhDs in chemistry, all right? Care should be taken to select the correct restaurants, believe it or not. Look at these numbers down below. 2008, Chipotle in San Diego. 2004, Maple Dairy in New York. 2003, Chi-Chi's Restaurant, Pennsylvania. 2000, Taco Bell in Florida. If you are one of these victims, and because I graduated from law school, find yourself a good lawyer, sue them. That's the only thing that's going to wake them up. They're not going to say, hey, Andy, help us solve our problems. They don't work that way. If they get a lawsuit, I had a guy crying to me the other day, lost $40 million. I told him how much it's going to cost to have safe food come out of his factory. He kicked me out of his office. He's going back to the way his granddad did it. Great. He's probably going to lose another 10 or 20 when the lawsuits come in. Here's my advice to you in 40 seconds. Eat safe food. Watch out for your body. Don't live in a fantasy world. Thank you very much.